Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Creative Collective podcast, where we talk about all things creative and real estate and anything that has to do with real estate investing or entrepreneurship. We like to bring guests on. We didn't have anyone booked tonight. A couple of our partners are busy, family in town, and just couldn't make it tonight. So here we are. I figured it'd be a good chance to dive into this, being a connector, really. And there's several things we can talk about. In particular, I want to talk about a foreclosure we were able to help stop, and that was really really cool. But before I get into that, I'll kind of back up to the kind of how I got started connecting, and how I knew I was a connector. Rocket Fuel, first off, if you haven't read Rocket Fuel, definitely got to do that, and then take the test to see if you're a visionary or an integrator, right? Because that book opened my eyes and my wife's eyes to some things that I actually hadn't known. I feel like I read Rocket Fuel 2 years ago, but this time it was different, right? We're in a different place, and timing is everything when it comes to business or opportunities, I feel. So we read that book together, and we started realizing, my wife realized there were some things that personality traits that lent to me being a visionary, that she started going, oh my gosh, like one of them was having ADD, right? Attention disorder, right? I've always had a hard time paying attention and focusing on things for too long. And so she was like, oh my gosh, I never knew that was just like part of you, like, having a hard time listening all the time. And I know it's a lot of us guys kind of have that problem. So I started listening to this audio book called How to Listen with Intention. I can't remember the author, but if you look it up on Audible, you'll find it. Right? I listened to that audio like 5 times, about 3 years ago, and I really started listening really well and learning how to communicate better. And so really one of the things I started doing when I realized I was a connector and just really loved to add value to other people and pour in to other people, was that I really wanted to learn how to really strengthen the strengths that I already had. So I started really working on just strengthening my strengths, right? Rather than trying to focus on my weaknesses and strengthen those. I had learned years ago that if you do that, you're only going to maybe, if you're like 20 or 30% efficient at something, you're only ever going to get to maybe 40 or 50%. But if you're 60, 70% at something that's a strength, you're going to get to 70, 80+%. So I started focusing on my strengths, and then finding people who complemented my strengths or who were good at other things that I wasn't good at or things I didn't like to do. And I actually just recently listened to that audio. Thanks, babe. But I recently listened to that audio, The Go Giver, right? And also Who Not How, right? Who Not How was really good. The Go Giver was amazing too. But Who Not How is really is really powerful. I don't know if you guys haven't listened to that audio or read that book, highly, highly recommend it. It is amazing. It's a life-changing, like perspective, give you a life-changing perspective on things. But yeah, I started learning, I was connecting people just kind of naturally. I've twice now. That's awesome, man. I've been doing networking. I did a bunch of network marketing businesses throughout the last 20 years since I've been an entrepreneur. I had my own granite and tile company for about 18 years in Eugene, Oregon. My wife and I did about 5 or 6 network marketing businesses. We did networking events for our granite business. So I was no stranger, right, to networking and to connecting with people. But when I joined Sub 2 in the Gator community, it was a whole different beast, right? I'd never been around people in my life who I could relate to and who were so like-minded before. And actually, when they asked your advice, they would actually take it. Like, it was so unknown to me. I was just like completely blown away by it. And it made it a lot easier for me to pour into people, right? Because we have a tendency, like those of us who are natural connectors, we want to help our friends and our family. We want to pour into them. And a lot of times, your advice falls on deaf ears, and your, ability to be able to help them is never really taken advantage of. And so, and people just aren't really grateful, in the outside world. There's a very low level of gratitude in the world right now, I feel. And that was one of the really big things that attracted me. Was immediately I started noticing I was sharing my life experience from being an entrepreneur and having all this prior networking experience, and 7 years of creative real estate experience as well. My wife and I had been fixing and flipping houses before we joined Sub2 for about 7 years, and we did a bunch of projects. We built a couple of houses in the process, and we just really, so I knew I had that to offer, and I wanted to just start offering advice and help wherever I could, and really just planting seeds. I love planting seeds of encouragement, and I love talking to people about mindset, because a lot of newbies, and I still do like 2 newbie Zooms a day, 5 days a week with new Gators and new Sub2 students. It's just something that I love to do, and I'll probably never stop doing it, to be honest with you. I just love pouring into people and helping them out wherever I can. And one of the things I'd like to talk about right now is basically telling your story and how powerful it can be. I like to tell my story when I meet people, because there's something in my story that somebody will be able to relate to, right? So you're building rapport right off the bat, and trust. And it also ties into some of the branding that I've been doing, and a lot of people are doing in the communities. So I start off every Zoom, and I go into about a 10-minute snippet into my life. I start off from high school, from dropping out of high school to, getting in a lot of trouble when I was a kid, to moving to Oregon and starting my own business, and creating it into, we basically built our granite business into a $1.3 million a year company. And, and we started doing fix and flips, but I tell a pretty detailed version of my story. So someone, somebody I'm talking to will relate to a part of my story, no matter what part it is. But it's really important to be relatable, so that's a huge part of connecting. So if you start telling your story, don't just get right into business and start talking about your deals and your transactions, because honestly, I want to get to know somebody before I start talking about business. I don't talk about business the first time I meet people, very rarely, maybe a little, like 10 minutes towards the end, but I don't want to do business with everybody, right? So at the end of the day, I want to make sure I jive and I vibe with somebody. I want to see what their energy level is. I want to see if we even connect, on that level, right? Because I mean, there's 11,000 people in Sub2, and I don't even know how many in Gator, like 7,000 or something now, but there's so many people and so many opportunities to connect with people. I've decided, with my granite business, for example, anybody who came into my showroom, we would do business with them, right? And there was some big mistakes, right? Some red flags that I wish I would have really taken and not done business with a handful of people. But those handful of people, I could hold maybe on 2 handfuls in 18 years, were the ones that you remember the most, right? Those bad business deals, and those people who were just not good human beings, basically. And so what Pace has created here is something that attracts like-minded people, I feel. And for the most part, I'd say 90+% of the people in the 2 communities are really solid, really solid people. I've had really good experiences with most of the people. And so it makes it easier, right, to connect with people and to help people when they appreciate what you're doing and they appreciate the help, So I started connecting people early on, and I was actually talking to my host here, the co-host of the show, Damon Ponder, one day, and I was like, Damon, I'm doing all this connecting, man, and I found in these deals, and I know there's a handful of people that I've met in the Gator community who have cash, and they want to do deals, and I started connecting them, the people, and I was telling Damon about that, and he goes, Lance, you realize some of the most wealthy people in real estate are brokers, right? And he's all, basically, you're brokering these deals for people. You're making sure it's a good deal, and then you're connecting them with people who have funding. And I was like, really? You're right. You're right. I am doing that. He's like, man, you can monetize off that. I was like, wow. So literally the very next potential deal that I had, I monetized that deal. And I got 2 points for myself in it, right? And it was a fix and flip. And I actually ended up connecting with like 4 deals with this one investor. And basically that was it. I was off to the races, guys. And we started monetizing, and I started learning as I went, and we started, we just started doing these gap funding deals. And I got 2 points, and then I got 4 points, and then I got 6 points, and I was adding these points to the backside of the deal, and these were 3 to 4 to 6 month deals, right? So I was I wasn't getting I wasn't getting paid right now, right? And our savings, since so let me back up. We went full time into investing last October. And speaking of, I got to congratulate my buddy on here, Justin, my full-time investor. What's up, brother? Congratulations, man, on retirement. But yeah, so
Thanks, buddy.
yeah, no problem, man. No problem. But yeah, so we started learning how to monetize. And so I talked to another connector, and he was like, hey, man, I was like, how do you get paid on the front end on these deals? And he goes, dude, I charge an origination fee just like a hard money lender would. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is a phenomenal idea. Right. So guess what? The very next deal I did, I was like, yeah, we charge an origination fee, and you can basically do, whatever you feel comfortable with on that origination fee. Right. So we started doing a $2,500 origination fee on every deal. And the people I really like and I've done deals with before, sometimes that's my only fee. But a lot of times I'll do the origination fee, and then we'll charge points on the back end. And as long as you write it up in the JV agreement that you have a flat number, it has to be a solid number in there. You're going to be fine, so you're not violating any usury laws, right? Because that's something that's very important, and we want to be very careful. As long as you're using that JV agreement and you're putting yourself in as a partner, right? It's good to go. So anyways, we started doing that, and we were doing really well with it, and we started making a few bucks here and there, but we were just grinding and hustling, and we started negotiating about 6 or 7 months ago on a mobile home park. And we're actually, it's been a long road, a long little bit of a bumpy road, right? But I was able to negotiate really good terms on that deal, and we're finally closing. We're supposed to close. This is our second or third time we're supposed to close, but now we're waiting on title. But we were supposed to close last Friday, and now we're closing this week. Hopefully, hopefully we're closing this week on that bad boy. But it was cool because we basically brought in the capital partner. So we're getting in with very little money out of our own pocket. We've spent about $6,000, 5 or 6,000, on an inspection and getting the land surveyed and everything like that. But really, at the end of the day, we found a capital partner to bring in $200,000 down, you guys. And our capital partner is awesome. And actually, she might be in here. I don't know if she is, but anyways, yeah. So super cool, right? So I started really learning how to monetize on our connections, and so we actually ended up getting a wholesale deal recently, and we've got a midterm rental and a short-term rental all in this last 6 months, guys. Really, we really stayed in our lane. And my wife, I have to give credit to her because she does most of the work, right? She does all the behind the scenes work. She does all the contract agreements. She works with title. If I get someone who wants to do a gap loan with us, she will basically get on and walk them through the entire process. We've helped probably close to 25 Gators get their first deal with gap loans. And so it's something really cool to be able to do. And we really love it. We really do. And so we will basically walk people through the entire process of the gap lending or the EMD, whatever it is, to teach them and to train them and to get hands-on experience, So it's been a lot of fun, and we really enjoy it. And so we're literally working like, it's when you love what you do, it's not like a 9 to 5, right, Justin, where you're like, oh, I'm gonna sit on the couch and binge watch Netflix. It's like when you love what you do, you have to pull yourself off of it because you just like go, 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 go. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. We'll go from morning till night, late into the night a lot of times. And so but anyways, yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, you guys. I've been connecting a lot. I've been branding really heavily. So I think branding and connecting kind of go hand in hand. The more you can brand yourself and clone yourself, like Pace says, the more people feel like they know you before you even ever meet them. I get on Zooms with people every day and they feel like they already know me because of all the podcasts that we've done, all the reels that I've done, all the Facebook posts I share about my life, my family, my friends, trips that we go on, wins, and that's really that's a big part of being a connector, right? Is branding yourself and letting people know who you are and what you're about. And I always tell people too, when we're going into a deal, I let them know the upsides and potential downsides. You can't just like give them all the fluff, because people aren't stupid, for one, and two, if something does happen or something goes wrong, you want your lenders to be prepared. You know what I mean? So you don't want to ever go get someone into a deal and not explain to them the potential downsides of the deal. It's really, really important to be really transparent. That's something that I really pride myself on, is letting people know the good, bad, and the ugly, right? And the potential upside, of course. But like being just open with people is really, really important when you're a connector. You have to be an open book. So those are all really important things. And so let's get into this deal, shall we? So I want to talk about this awesome deal. We just did a cool Instagram live, my first Instagram live with Chris Crump and his partner the other day. It was a lot of fun. And I got to get to my notes. Okay. So we did this. We actually had this deal come to us from a new friend of ours, new partner, Tony Williams. He's a Sub-2 student. Tony brought us a deal about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. I don't know. It's all been a blur, right? This last 6 months. But this guy, Tony, brought us a deal where he was door knocking and looking for pre-foreclosures in Dallas, and mainly in like north of Dallas in the Frisco area, which is a super hot market. And so he brought us a deal and he's like, hey, Lance, I know you've been, helping people raise funds, and I was like, he's like, hey, I need X amount of money to get this deal. And I was like, yeah, man, let's take a look at it. So we vetted it. It vetted really well. There was a lot of equity in it. It was a solid deal. So we decided to help him out. Within like 1 or 2 days, I was able to raise the capital to pay off the arrears on this deal. But the deal actually never made it to the finish line, right? He hadn't had it under contract yet. And so he actually had the deal snagged out from under him by, I think, another investor, unfortunately. But what happened was the seller basically just ghosted him out of nowhere. And so, so what happened was I started building rapport with him, and he saw that I was able to take action and get that lending right secured. So who did he call next time he needed some funding? He called your boy. He called me up. He goes, bro, I got this deal. He's like, I got this deal. Okay, so let me back up. Labor Day weekend, guys. He calls us on a Friday afternoon. He says, hey, I got this deal. So he's like, it's going into foreclosure. It's gonna hit the auction steps Tuesday morning. And I'm like, oh, bro, like, holy crap. Like, we have we didn't have a business day or a half a day to talk to title or talk to the bank at all. And so I said, yeah, what are you looking to do, man? Let's look at this. And he goes, look, I'm looking, he's like, I need $28,000 to catch up on the arrears to stop the auction. And I said, okay, well, let me take a look at it. I had my wife kind of vet it like we always do. She vetted the deal really quickly. And he was like, look, he's like, I need $28,000. I'm willing to give you $20,000 in return. And we're talking less than 30 days or less, so immediately it was a no brainer. I was like, holy smokes, that's a great return. I reached into my network. I have, a lot of PMLs that I deal with and work with. And capital partners and equity partners and, all kinds of different people. And so I reached in. First person was a local guy here that I didn't know had a huge line of credit, and he had some personal funds as well. So I hit him up within 2 hours, like literally within 2 hours, I had this deal funded, and everything was good. We had the wire set up, transfer set up, everything was in place. And about Monday afternoon, Labor Day, Monday afternoon, my wife was called one of our friends, Evan Hall in Dallas, and he's done a lot of foreclosure stuff. So we called him. She called him actually, and she talked to him about it. She said, "Hey Evan, we're gonna put 28,000 in pay off the arrears to stop this foreclosure." And he said, "Well, there's some risk involved in that." He said, "The bank does not have to stop the foreclosure, even though you paid the arrears off." And I did not know that. So we were like, "Oh crap." So my wife was like, "Man," she's like, "Babe, the bank can still foreclose even if you pay the arrears off. It's not very likely, but it is a possibility." So that was something new that I found out, right? And so I was like, "Oh, great." So she's like, Honestly, I think this deal's dead. I don't think we can move forward." I was like, "Bullshit. Like, no way. Like, there's like $20,000 on the table here. I'm gonna make this thing happen. I don't quit unless, it's a, unless the deal's completely dead, I'm not gonna stop." So I reached into my network, and I reached out to a new friend of mine in Dallas, Chris Crump. And Chris is known as the Dispo King in Dallas, right? So I said, "Chris, I got this deal, man. Do you have any foreclosure? I need a foreclosure specialist." And he goes, "Man, I'm going to hook you up with my friend who just stopped a foreclosure." So I reached out to his buddy. I said, "Hey, buddy, hey man, can you help me out? I got to stop this foreclosure tomorrow. It's set to hit the courthouse steps literally tomorrow." And he goes, "Oh man, I got this person for you." He gave me two different ladies' numbers. One of them was Angie Acosta, and we reached out to Angie. My wife and I both reached out to her. She happened to reach back to my wife and found out that she had built a business solely on stopping foreclosures. All she does is helps people stop foreclosures. Crazy, right? I'm constantly meeting new people who have a business within the business within the business. So like all she does is stops foreclosures. I was like, "Whoa, this is our girl." So we get on the phone with her. She goes, "Hey, I basically charge $600 to stop a foreclosure." And I was like, "Oh man, that's great." She goes, "But you guys," she says, "but you guys," oh, hold on a sec, guys. She said, "You guys have done most of the groundwork and have most of the things in place, so I'll charge you $300. I was like, "Done," right? Pretty much, like, I don't even know exactly. She knows the exact right things to say to the bank is what it is, and I wish I knew that. We're gonna try and learn that, but for now, we're gonna use Angie, right, from now on. So Angie's like, "I can get this, done." So like we go, okay, we sign the agreement with her, we pay her the $300, and Tuesday morning rolls around, and within 39 minutes of the auction, she stops this foreclosure, guys. 39 minutes, literally, like right before it hit the courthouse steps. And I was completely blown away that she was able to do that. And here's the really cool thing: she postponed that 30 days. Like, we got a 30-day extension on that foreclosure. And what that meant was that I didn't have to bring the $28,000 to the table now. And I realized right there, my wife and I were talking about it. I was like, "Babe, that means we're gonna make $20,000 on this deal." She goes, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "No, why not? We brought the person in, right? We connected the right players to this deal." Angie, yeah, Angie's a badass. So I was like, "Holy smokes! Like, did we just really? Are we gonna make 20,000 on this?" So we weren't there yet, right? We had to close. We had to find a buyer, right? So I reached back out to Chris because he's right there in Dallas and he's known as the Dispo King. So I said, "Hey, Chris, do you want to help us? Can you dispo this deal for us? Let's partner up on this." And he goes, "Absolutely." And at this point, we had, I think, like less than 2 weeks to find a buyer on this deal. And he was like, he's like, "Man, it's a little tight, but yeah, I can do it." So what happened was the seller was in Europe with his son at some kind of tournament, sports tournament or something like that. And so getting a hold of this guy, once we stopped the foreclosure, was really difficult. He was supposed to have someone meet us at the house to get photos because we can't sell a house without photos. And they hadn't cleaned up, right? It was they had gone him and his wife had gone through a divorce, and so they were kind of like head in the sand a little bit. Like this house almost went into foreclosure. And another thing that was cool about this deal, there was like a couple $100,000 in equity in this deal when Tony found it. And so it was a really, really killer deal, and one of the most desirable areas in the country, really. And if you don't know about Frisco, Texas, they're building, one of the reasons why it's so hot is because Universal Studios is building a new facility there, supposed to be completed by the end of 2026, I believe. But so it's drawing a lot of attention. So anyways, there's huge equity in this deal. Tony actually had figured out on giving the two owners, the ex-husband and wife, each $25,000 at the close of this thing. So that was super cool too, you guys. We got to help this couple from having another huge burden, right, of a foreclosure on their record, and that would have just been a nightmare for them. And so to be able to be part of that is really, really huge. If we could have just stopped the foreclosure, I would have done it, to be honest with you. But the fact that we knew that there was some good profit to be made in this, and we were developing these really cool new relationships with other investors, was just really icing on the cake. So basically what happened was, Chris, we couldn't get the photos, right? The husband was like pretty unavailable. He's on a completely different time zone. He's like 12 hours ahead of us or whatever it was. I can't remember the time. My wife will probably hop on here and correct me, but he was like way off on the time zone. So we were having a hard time getting a hold of him. Then he said, "Oh, I'm only going to let Tony in the house. I don't want anyone else there. I've still got personal belongings in there." Thankfully, Tony only lives about 20 or 30 minutes away. So Tony was like a really good sport, man. He was a huge on helping us get in there. So one day went by, 2 days, 3 days, and we have 2 weeks, guys. So 3 days, 4 days. And I went out to a meetup with Chris and Jabs Carter and their partner, Zach. And I decided I was going to go and meet. Well, we were supposed to meet with the seller's cousin, with Tony, and get some photos of the place for Chris so he could dispo this thing. So we're like day 4 into this thing after we stopped the foreclosure, and we're getting down to like 7 or 8 days now that we have to literally close on this sale of this place, right? So, it was getting a little nerve-wracking, but I actually did not ever for a moment doubt our team's abilities, because I'd already seen a miracle happen, right, with stopping this thing. So I didn't doubt it for 1 minute. When you're plugged in with the right players, you expect them to perform, and you have to have faith in those people. So literally it was about a week finally so they ghosted us. Me and Tony hung out for a half hour in the blazing hot sun of Dallas. It was like 98 degrees. We're like sweating our butts off, just dripping in sweat. And they didn't show. And so it wasn't until about 5, 6, 7 days, I think it was, until he got back from his trip and Tony was able to go in and get photos. It was crazy. So Chris was able to get in within like 7 days and dispo this thing. We had a couple of hiccups. We had somebody commit to it and not put an EMD down, and so that fell apart. The first offer fell apart, and then we found what Chris called an angel investor. Wired EMD within like that night. Stopped by the bank that night and wired EMD on this second buyer. And so my favorite thing about this story, guys, is the fact that it wasn't my deal, right? I didn't stop the foreclosure. I didn't find the end buyer. I wasn't involved in any of the transaction, right? So I just basically connected all the pieces to the puzzle, and we made this thing happen, right? Tony was the wholesaler. He brought the deal. He needed help raising funds. I raised the funds, then I didn't even need to put those funds in. And then I found Chris. I reached out to Chris. It took me so it was like 2 different people to find Angie. We found Angie, brought her in as a foreclosure specialist, and then Chris helped us dispo the deal. That whole deal happened, and we ended up profiting $22,500 on that deal in total. So we made $2,500 on the dispo, all in less than 30 days, like 3 weeks, guys. And it's all because of the network that I had built, right, as a connector. And it's something that's really, truly amazing. And I love to tell, I tell this story all the time now because it's my new favorite story to tell. It's just something that you would never believe if you weren't in the community and you weren't around it, you know? And so it was really, really cool. Yes, just my portion. The wholesaler made 50K and Chris made 2,500. So $75,000 on this deal, on this foreclosure was made between the three parties. And so it was an amazing, amazing deal. Like I had to pitch myself. I was like, because literally, guys, we were going like we were grinding. We've been grinding for 6 or 7 months. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a culmination, accumulation of just hustling and grinding, connecting, networking, branding, doing podcasts, Zooms all the time. Like we started building this huge network of awesome, awesome people, and people start noticing that you're taking action and doing the things consistently and building your brand, you know, and that's really how you start finding lenders who want to work with you and borrowers who want to work with you and people that trust you. You know, you've got to build that trust. I get people that message me all the time. They're like, "Hey, you got a private money lender?" You know, and I'm just like, yeah, I've got probably over $2.5 million of private money. But am I gonna just forward you their information? Hell no, I'm not. Like, I don't. First off, who are you? Hi, I'm Lance. Nice to meet you. You know, uh, people DM me all the time now, and they're like, you know, they just want to get your contacts, and it's like, bro, that's not a good way to connect with people. You know, I always start off with, hey, how's it going? And I tell people what my strengths are and what I'm doing and how I can add value to them. Not I don't say, hey, how can I add value to you? That's the worst thing you could possibly ask somebody who's really busy. And I know it's coming from a good place, but right, most of us here know that I don't have time to figure out how you can add value to me if I don't know what your strengths are and I don't know what you're doing and what you're capable of. You know what I mean? So that's why I love how Pace started talking about that. Him and Abraham started talking about doing the YouTube channels and the creating that 3-minute video, you know, to put on your calendar. I thought that was genius. Even though I haven't done it yet, and I've got a post it in front of me that I've been looking at for like 3 weeks. But you know, I'm gonna get to it, I promise. But but anyways, you know, yeah, so that deal was dope, man. You guys, I could talk about networking, connecting all day long. But it was an amazing deal, and it's just something that I see us doing again over and over again. So so yeah, we ended up, because of the monetizing and all the work we've been doing for the last 6 or 7 months, we actually had our biggest month to date last month. We cleared over $40,000 in profit. And I shared it on Facebook to show people just on the gap funds that came back alone, our portion of it was about 20,000, and then we made 22,500 on this one deal. So it's just truly a testament, you guys, of the power of connecting and networking and being consistent. You know, it's just really amazing, and honestly, it's looking like this month's going to be even better already. So really, the sky's the limit, you guys, and we're not going to stop. We don't have any plans to slow down, and it's been such an outpouring of you know, just grateful people and people commenting that I've planted seeds with and people that I've hopped on Zooms with, just coming in to the post and just saying how much they appreciate me sharing the wins and how they, because you get to see really, because we weren't doing this 6 months ago. We weren't making shit. Like we were burning through our savings and we were maxing out our credit cards. Literally, it got down to the wire to where we had to get 2 new credit cards, and we were like, oh shit, you know, like I was had to battle with that self-limiting belief and that doubt that was creeping in, man. That devil on my shoulder, right, was trying to tell me that I was fake and it wasn't going to work, and that everything I was doing wasn't going to amount to shit. And I had to tell that voice to shut the hell up and go back to the pits of hell where it came from. You know, like we all battle that stuff, man. It's real. Like it'll creep up on you if you're not careful. You know, you got to take control of that. And so it happens with everybody, man. And it's just really cool, guys. I don't want to keep talking forever because I could go on and on. But Justin, man, you want to hop on here, man? Do you have anything to add that you want to share with us?
Awesome explanation of all that deal, Lance. Amazing month. Congratulations. I think that's incredible for you guys. I'm proud of you guys, and I know you worked really hard to get to that point. Ari asked, can you explain a little bit about gap funding?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that. And congrats again on your
Thank
new
you.
semi-retirement, brother.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so cool, dude.
I'll be hustling like you too, though. It's not retirement. It's just
Yeah,
retirement from the W-2. You know.
yeah, yeah. You get to live life more on your terms. I
Exactly.
totally get it though. That's why I call it a semi-retirement, right? Because we're not once you get that passive income where you can actually but yeah, it's you're on your way, bro. But yeah, so a gap fund or a bridge loan, it's a gap loan or a bridge loan. There's two in the same. It's one in the same, actually. It's two different terms for the same thing. So basically, if somebody, for example, were to be getting a fix and flip and they have a hard money lender or get a DSCR loan for a deal, you basically, let's just go with hard money lender. A hard money lender will want to see X amount of reserves in the bank, 20 to 30% of the project that they're loaning on. And so you have to be able to show that you have that amount. So they're basically going to loan you 70 to 80% of the loan to value of the deal. And so you're going to need that 20 to 30% to complete the transaction. And that's basically what a gap fund is, a loan is. We come in and we help them complete, or it can be private money, like somebody got a private money loan on purchasing the property, but they need rehab. They need money for rehab. That can also be a gap loan. So there's a handful of different things, but those are the two most common. And it doesn't have to be a fix and flip. It can be a short-term rental, mid-term rental, whatever it is. It can be any kind of real estate transaction. If it's not a fix and flip, it'll be something where they plan to refinance, cash out refi and pay back the gap lender. So that's basically what it is in a nutshell.
Awesome. Hey, Lance, can you maybe explain, if anybody out there is wanting to become a connector like you, can you maybe explain a little bit about your process and maybe what you do differently at this point, knowing what you know now, and then secondly, maybe explain your process of vetting these deals, so that, because I know, you can easily just have someone come to you and say, okay, I have a deal, and then you could go to a private money lender and say, I have this deal, and then connect the two, but you don't want to go to your private money lender knowing that it's a bad deal. And so can you explain some of the processes that you guys go through in order to vet the deals?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I will hopefully I'll tag my wife in on this. I asked her to be available, but first I'll tell you about basically how I'm connecting with people. And I touched on it earlier before the Zoom started, and I call it networking with intention. And what I mean by that is most people don't know how to network properly, right? And it's something I've got a lot of experience with, and I've really, really dialed it in with the Sub2 and the Gator community. But it's basically what I mean by that is for example, when you're on a Facebook post and somebody says, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'm looking for a loan, or I need $20,000. I can tell you 90% of the people who are asking for $20,000, the people that comment, 90% of them, they're not going to actually take action and really reach out to that person. And I tell people this all the time. I've had 3 or 4 deals like that where people give up so quickly. They're like, oh yeah, there's 30 or 40 people. I'm not even gonna. Here's the thing, people, when you comment on someone's Facebook post, most people are not going to take the time to go through 30 or 40, 50 comments and try and DM each one of those people. They're going to have a small handful of people DM them and say, hey, I'm interested in this deal, and actually pursue the deal. That's where a lot of people miss the mark, man, is really intentionally going and pursuing somebody. So if you really want to connect with somebody, you need to get into their DMs and say, hey, I'm so and so, and I'm interested in this deal. You know, here's what I've done, or here's what I can do. Here's the value I can add. Don't say, what can I do? Say, and you have to be very confident too. So if you go into someone's deal and say, hey, I'm looking for my first deal, let me fund this. If it's a seasoned investor, they're not going to want a first timer funding their deal unless you're really confident or you have a partner, right? So not saying it's not possible, but it's a lot easier when you're working with somebody who's seasoned because they know the ins and outs of it. So DM and then get their information, and I'll send my Blink card when they respond. I'll send a Blink card or whatever platform you use. Send your Blink card, and then in my clipboard, I have a little clipboard note that I send that says, please fill out your, or please save my contact information and fill out your information as prompted. Because what happens is I send my Blink card out, I was sending it out and I wasn't getting their information back. So I have to actually save that in my clipboard so people will actually, and then I'll check it later. And if I don't get it, I'll send another message. I'll say, hey, all you got to do is go back into my Blink. I like to keep all of my investors in one spot. If you don't mind, please fill out your contact information. And if they don't respond after that, then whatever, you know, I'll move on. But 90% of the time or more, people will respond, you know, that first or second time. And then what I'll do is I'll say, hey, you know, I'm free this day and that day, or I'll say, hey, you know, can I send you my Calendly and let's link up. If it's something that's like time sensitive, I can't do that anymore because my Calendly is like 2 to 3 weeks out right now. So I basically started saving like Fridays and Saturdays for actual potential business deals. So I can do business Fridays and Saturdays and then after certain hours, but you can get them on a Zoom or get them on a phone call and actually put it on your calendar and send them a link. Right. So all those things are crucial if you really, really want to make connections and actually make deals happen, is you have to be very intentional on those connections. And so that's a huge thing. That's a huge part that people miss. They don't get it. They think if they just comment and then they get butthurt, oh, well, I sent this guy a message and they never responded. So, you know, screw them. And I'm just like, no, like people are busy. Messages get lost easily, you know, send them another message. Don't be so small-minded. You know what I mean? Like send them another DM, send them a text message, whatever. It doesn't, like, you know, if someone's intentionally ghosting you, that's one thing. But most of the time people are just busy and they don't have time or they miss the message. So I know that was a lot, but there's a lot that goes into it, you know, and you start doing that consistently and it's going to pay off. I can guarantee you. And I wanted to see if babe, so I basically say, hey, honey, I have a deal. Can you vet this for me? So I don't vet the deals.
The brains
my
behind the
integrator partner,
operation, Jesse
that's right.
Wiggin.
The brains, the mastermind is actually my wife, Jessie. Jessie rocks. Jess,
You're
babe,
just
can you
a
hop
pretty
on?
face, Lance. That's all.
That's right. That's it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
yes.
Okay. I'm just going to I want the echo in the car. So you guys still hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, you guys got to hear Lance's side of it. Without him doing the connecting, we wouldn't be having these deals coming to us. But once they come to me, I essentially, the way that I look at it is I try and poke holes in the deal. And that's really how I start vetting. I start a simple Google search. Google search these borrowers. A Google search, you'd be surprised what it would pull up. Sometimes even on the first page. Ask me how I know. Story for another day.
Yeah.
Story for another day. But
Yeah.
you know, the internet can be a wonderful thing. Just in trying to find out if anybody has a blatant criminal record. Because there are sharks out there, even in our community, and our community is amazing, but we are still in the real world and we're still dealing with humans. So, you know, just be cautious, go into every lend, you know, with that in mind. And then do your own underwriting. You know, you're going to want to see, and I'll get back to vetting the borrower in just a second, but you're going to want to do your own underwriting. You want to see a purchase and sale agreement. You want to see a scope of work. You want to see actual proof that they have a hard money lend. You want to see if they, you know, have an LLC. You want to check the Secretary of State records to see if it's an active LLC. Sometimes every state's different, but it will show if it's active or inactive. Sometimes you can see why it's inactive. You can see other LLCs under their name. You can get really down and dirty, and you can, start looking into county records based on that business's name to see if they've gone to court. Melissa Palmer, Mel Palmer, has actually rolled out something, a program like this that's very in depth. She had worked with Department of Homeland Security, but I'm kind of just an OG creep, and I do my Google stalking in a different way. Since I don't have access to those resources yet, but make sure that you are getting, bids from their, that they've gotten from their contractors. You really want to be looking over this deal, I think, to really add value. Cause yeah, you can get out there and you can connect a deal and make a quick, $1,000-$1,500. But one of the reasons that Lance and I charged the $2,500 that he said up front is because we really deep dive into this. And then we do our own TC work as well. So we're writing up the notes and the security instruments against this, but really doing your own comps, making sure that people aren't cherry picking this, bringing you a deal saying, oh, this thing is going to be worth blah, blah, blah. Like, do your own due diligence so that when you, like Justin said, when you bring it to your lender, that you're showing them something that you really put time into. And this can take a few hours to do, but you're going to make a connection fee. I mean, we're still in the real world. We can still, trade hours for dollars, even if it's on our time. And you can just put some heart and soul into your deal once you find something. So that's some of the that I do on these deals, checking to really see, what I think these numbers are going to be. Lance and I happen to have a background in construction, so we know right off the bat, what a standard cost of a roof is, and what, we know what plywood costs from Home Depot. So we can kind of look at these numbers and get a good idea. And then we can look at photos of the home. If you're telling me it's a lipstick remodel and the photos show that it looks like everything's dry rot, your numbers are off. So trying to approach it and make sure that, those numbers are adding up too, not just do the numbers fit for the ARV, but does their rehab make sense for the amount of work that it looks like they need to have done? And reach out to somebody if you don't know the answers to those questions. Checking to see the status of the property, if the ownership is actually matching up with the name that's on the purchase and sale agreement. There is a lot of seller fraud right now, so be cautious of that. There are people who are, falsifying ownership. So, and I know I'm really going into a deep dive, so I'll try and keep this kind of, to a minimum of minutes, but I know it seems overwhelming, but these are really things that you can do to add value to these deals. And then going and vetting the borrower. I had said up front, just a quick Google search. I do check people's social media. When we get to a point where I've vetted the deal, I will do a background check on them. Absolutely. I do a credit check and a criminal history check. It's $35, and you can send them a link so that they can fill it out. You're not getting any of their personal information. Don't do that. Don't have people send you their social security numbers. That's not good. But there are plenty of websites out there where you can request this information, and it just sends you back the report. And you can look over and see, how they're looking on paper. Because that's a big part. You want to be able to tell your lender, like, hey, I've checked this person. They don't have, felonies or fraud checks. And, every lender's threshold is different, but Lance and I base it on what our personal comfort level is in bringing this, to somebody that we would feel comfortable lending our own money on. And then cross collateralizing, like, you need to get not just we go into this with our JV, and we go into this with a promissory note and a deed of trust, or a mortgage, for second position, depending on the state. Every state has different regulations. So make sure that you're getting the appropriate paperwork for the state and the county that you're working in. But so we get the promissory note and the deed, and that protects them against the property. But if something goes sideways, we need to make sure that we can go after the borrower to make the lenders whole. So you get a personal guarantee. What's nice about a personal guarantee is that they can't claim bankruptcy on it. So it pierces the veil of the LLC, because the LLC kind of keeps, just like it says, it's limited liability. So you don't want somebody just dissolving an LLC and saying, sorry about your lender's money. So you want to get a personal guarantee because they can't claim bankruptcy and charge that off. It's something that sticks with them. However, you want to make sure, if you do have a personal guarantee, that they, have assets to cross collateralize. A personal guarantee isn't worth anything if they don't own anything, and it's a tough conversation to have sometimes, but you just have to have it. If they have and no hate, like, please don't take this next comment wrong, but if they have a 1990 Honda Civic and they live in an apartment, you can't go after them for anything. So, making sure that that personal guarantee has some weight behind it, because people need to be scared to lose something. Somebody is entrusting them with large amounts of money so that they can better their life. We need to make sure that our lenders are protected in the event that something goes sideways. You're really going to want to see a decent amount of cross collateral if the property doesn't have it in there. I know some lenders who want to see anywhere from 1.5 to 3 times the amount of equity for cross collateral. That means if you're borrowing 100,000, you need to have 150 to 300,000 in equity in 1, 2, 3 properties. That's just kind of some of their requirements, because in the event that you had to go after somebody, it's going to eat up a healthy portion of that going after them. So another, tangent, I'm going to try and reel it back in, but these are all things that you guys should be thinking about if you want to do a connection on another level. This is how we vet deals. These are the conversations that we have with our borrowers and our lenders, and we're very straightforward with both of them. We let them know we're putting trust in you as a borrower, and we want you to do well. But we absolutely will come after you with fire if things don't go right, because this is hard. This is money that people have worked very hard for and saved very long for, and we don't take that lightly. And that's
right.
Ari asks, how do you check if they have assets?
Well, so some of that you're going to see on their credit report. If they have a mortgage on a home, you're going to see the bank that they have a mortgage with. You're going to see what the balance is. You're going to be able to do your comping on that house. You're going to be able to see any car loans that they have like that. You can also ask them for personal financial statements, which is absolutely something that you should be having them. This is very much like a bank situation, right? Like, we're lending you money. These are all things that a bank would ask from you if you're going to get a loan. So financial statements, I don't ask for taxes yet. It's not something that I'm opposed to. The more lending we do and the more layers we have to add, there are plenty of ways to prove assets, to prove income, to double check that these assets are actually owned by the borrower and that you can cross collateralize them.
Yeah, I'd like to throw something in here too. So some of you guys are thinking, man, I got to do all that to be a connector. We take it a step further, guys. I consider myself a facilitator. We facilitate these deals. We're not just a connector. If you want to just connect deals, that's totally fine. You can make $1,000 here and there. That's not what we do. We're like next level connectors, right? We want to mitigate as much risk as we possibly can when we're bringing a lender into a deal. I don't want to just connect somebody with a shitty deal. Like, I won't sleep well if I do that. So I'm not just going to blast out every deal I see on Facebook. I'm going to get some solid deals that are vetted. And we actually, when I say facilitate, we're like a liaison between the two parties, right? If something needs to be communicated or we're having issues with communications, we'll step in and we'll start communicating directly. We will make sure that things are handled right. My wife basically instructs title. She handles the JV, all the paperwork and everything like that. And if it's a complicated deal, we'll bring a top tier TC in. We're actually working with someone now who we might actually start doing. But I just wanted to say that if you want to connect, be a connector and monetize, you can just simply get a referral fee, or you can actually, you could do a lot more than that and really get heavily involved in this. But we always let the lender know. We actually, yes, she does need an assistant. We let people know all the time. We vetted this deal as best we could. Do your own due diligence now. Here's all the information. We send an email with all the pertinent information that we've done, all the research that she's done, that we've done. And they go, if they want to go forward with it, great. Then what I'll do is get us on a Zoom with the borrower. So I always connect the borrower and the lender and myself on a Zoom every single deal. We connect each other, so we know who each other, almost every single deal, 99% of them. And so that's kind of what we do. We take it next to another level, and that's why I think we've been so successful. Along with the branding and in the podcast, like I said, just people are starting to see what we're doing, and they feel like they know us, right? And you got to wear your heart on your sleeve, guys. Like I was saying earlier, if you didn't catch that, you got to be really transparent with people. If you're not, people are going to see through that, or they're just not going to have trust in you. You can't just give them all the fluffy and none of the potential downside. At the end of the day, that's really what it boils down to. So.
Jason asked a good question. Do you guys have a due diligence checklist that you follow that you could maybe share with the listeners?
Babe, you there? So I have a jot form that I send out that basically will vet the deal, like pre-screen. It's a pre-screening. So I send out the jot form. It's very detailed, right? It's very detailed, and it asks all the questions, and I'm not going to go into all of it because it's like 30 questions in there. And then at the bottom, oh no, she does have a form, but she does have something she sends out. But the jot form is where I start. If somebody's interested, I'll kind of do a little napkin analyze, right? If it looks like a decent deal, it looks like something that I know my lenders will like, then I will pursue it. I'll negotiate though. If it's just a little off, if the percentages aren't quite there, I'll negotiate and I'll find, the lender that's interested. But the jot form is amazing. Like, it's a huge time saver. If they can't give me all the information, the title company, the escrow agent, the contract agreement, photos, comps, like, we're trying to get them to do as much of the work to save us from having to do tons and tons of work and vetting the deal. We have the borrower send us as much information as we possibly can to save us time and energy. So they fill that jot form out. That's the first step. And then we go from there, then we vet it from there to see if it's, we either let them know yay or nay. If it doesn't fit in our buy box, our parameters, then we just let them know, hey, this isn't in our buy box, but here's what is. So I don't ever say, oh, it's not a good deal, or ignore somebody. You always want to let somebody know, hey, this actually doesn't fit, but here's what I do. It's also my clipboard. Here's what I lend on. Here's what we do. Boom. And the numbers and the timelines. So people kind of know, and that way they can bring you deals next time that do fit your criteria. So,
well, maybe you guys could drop those in the Facebook page and to share with everyone. So anybody who's interested, go to the Facebook page and in the next day or so, and Lance and Jesse will plop that in there.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Yeah, Pansy, you have a question? You can unmute.
Go ahead.
Let's see if I have a voice. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
So I actually have a few questions.
Mhm.
The first one is, you went over all of the things that to qualify a borrower. Shoot, sorry, my mind just went blank. Shoot, the borrower. Anyways, okay, well, forget that question. But the next question, and this is what threw me off for my other question. I don't know if you mentioned it or not. So are you vetting? Obviously, then you're vetting your lenders similarly, like, correct?
Not really. No, honestly, I don't vet lenders very often. Most of the lenders I meet are in the Gator community, you know, so I haven't had a need to vet a lender. Honestly, I've never had a lender come and say they had $60,000 to do a deal and not have it. So I don't really see the need for it. I build relationships though with people. So I usually it's somebody who I've done a Zoom with, or somebody that I've talked to, or somebody that has been referred to me, you know. So it's a great question though. Like I get to ask that every now and then. I actually don't vet lenders really at all.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
back to my other question. It was about everything that, you know, again, vetting the borrowers. Um, shoot. I don't know why every time I have the question in my head and I start to talk about it, um,
That's
leaves
okay.
my
You want
mind.
to cop back on if you remember?
Yeah, I don't know why. I just had it again and I'm like, forget it. Never mind. My voice is really throwing me off. So,
No problem.
right.
Hey, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions about that deal, the foreclosure or
Looks
the
like Jason
vetting
has a
or
question.
oh
Go
cool.
ahead,
Jason, what's up, bro? Hop on up here.
What's up, Lance? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, man?
Good. So I know when we spoke before, you spoke of your wrap business. So is this totally separate from that side of things, or do they kind of
Yeah,
intertwine with each other?
it really is. It's something that I fell into because of the what I'd been doing. I saw that you know, Kyle Frizzell is who I'm helping out with the capital, bringing capital partners, but he had a post one day and I was like, "Oh, hey man, I can help you out." And he goes, "Okay, here's some wraps if you can help me find a capital partner." And I found him one on the first list. He started giving me about 3 months ago. I started working with him. So I got a list of like 3 or 4 wraps. 3 months later, these guys have 40 deals in escrow at any even time. Like these guys are
Wow.
just crushing it. So I'm literally every week to every other week finding him 3 to 4 capital partners for his reps. So it's been a really cool partnership with Kyle and his team. He's got 9 people on his team. He's his partner Nathaniel Walker, and they have 8 employees between them, a full-time TC, Dispo guys. They've built something really cool, and their systems and processes that they've been building are amazing. I'm getting lists from him now that are like 7 to 9 wraps every 7 to 10 days, man. And so,
Wow.
yeah, and sometimes I'll help. Like last week, I got like 4 capital partners for him in 1 week. So it's pretty cool.
So
It's fun. I love. Go ahead.
you don't
Sorry.
really have to vet borrowers on that end. You're just really bringing in the capital more.
Yeah, no, that's what's cool about Kyle. And that's the thing. I really stress the fact that when you're working with a seasoned sub 2 students like that, Kyle's been doing in sub 2 for a year and a half, and he's been just a rock star, dude. Like there's all these, I try and let people know. I actually did I send you that video? I recorded a Zoom
Yeah, it
video
was awesome. Yeah.
about the wraps so I could stop telling people like 5 times every day because I was like getting so sick of it. So I took Pace's advice and cloned myself, right? So I've got a lot of
Yeah.
really positive feedback, but man, nobody else structures deals like he does. Like he gives half of the entire deal, and so
Yeah.
you know he makes it really easy. But yeah, it's been fun, man. And the big reason why I did it with Kyle, because I don't get paid what I would, not even close to what I would on my own gap deals. But what the value there was, the huge value was plugging into Kyle and his team. I knew that I was going to partner up with somebody who is a rock star and probably the #1 wrap buyer in the entire sub 2 community. I would say pretty confidently. And I've learned the ins and outs of wraps. Now I'm very confident doing wraps, and that was the big reason why I thought it would be a good idea to start partnering up with him. But honestly, we probably brought about 16 capital partners or more to him in the last 3 months. And it's just, it's getting easier and easier now. People are like, oh,
Yeah.
people all the time, well, it doesn't comp and this and that. I'm like, you can't comp a wrap. You're selling it over market because you're selling it to penalty box buyers, right? It's going to be
Yeah.
about 10% above what market value is going to say. So, but there's a lot of things people ask the dumbest questions. Sometimes they're like, well, why are they selling that house? Why would someone sell a house like that? And I'm just like, who gives a shit? You know, I don't say that, but you know, I'm thinking that. I'm like, come on, man. It's like, what does that matter? But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun.
yeah, it's an awesome business model he's got going on there. But
Yeah,
all
thank
right,
you, man.
cool, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. No problem, man. Great questions.
Any
Well,
other
anyone else got
questions?
any questions? Justin?
I have a question. With all the people that you go out and reach out to and talk to, how do you keep everyone straight? Like, you find someone, I always find myself, making a connection and then, some time goes by and, the conversation wanes and, you sort of forget about certain things. So what do you
Yeah.
do to keep it all straight?
At this point, so I actually brought someone in to help me build out my CRM because I just I wasn't getting it done at the end of the day. And I decided it was time to find my who, not how, right? So I brought a guy on, a new Gator who wanted to learn about creative finance, super green, doesn't know anything about real estate, doesn't know anything about Gator lending. I made an agreement with him that we would I'm just rabbit holing a tiny bit, but this was a really cool little story. So we had a conversation one day. I had a Zoom with him, and he told me he basically built systems out for IT companies, and he loved doing his job. And I hate doing that stuff personally. So I was like, dude, I'm like, bro, I'll teach you everything you want to know about creative finance up to like whatever you want to know, dude. I will teach you if you help me build this out. He goes, yes, let's do it. And that was it. And so he's helping me build that out. But to answer your question, I have had a horrible system so far. It's been a massive, huge mess of notepads and Messenger and
Sticky
just
notes.
my Blink card, my Blink and stuff like so. Basically, if I'm sending email out, I'll type in Gator or PML to find so like it's stupid right now, honestly. But when I see people on Facebook or Messenger, I'll just scroll through sometimes and I'll just tap them. But a lot of it is I keep in contact with people who are more active because I'll see them on Facebook and I'll go, oh man, I haven't connected with them in a while, and I'll just reach out to them and send them a DM.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's a freaking mess right now, dude. I am not the guy to talk to about that.
Yeah.
Not yet. But the cool thing is that CRM is going to be rocking, dude. He's integrated all kinds of stuff. He's gonna make it so easy for me, bro. I'll be able to cut my social media time in half. I'll be able to create these pre-made reels and posts and have the CRM automatically post certain times out of the week for me.
Mhm.
So I can create content for like an hour on the weekend and just have it automatically do it. So I'll be able to focus more on the connections and stuff. But a lot of cool things in that CRM I'm excited about. The email blast, text message blasts, not
Mhm.
just like random spams, but sending out deals to, people who I know who want to invest.
Right.
So
Awesome.
yeah. Yep.
All right. Any other questions, guys?
Any other questions before we wrap it up?
It's like that's a no. So thanks everyone for coming on. We appreciate you spending your time with us. And Lance,
Yep.
thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, man.
And let us know if you guys need anything.
Oh, and go follow our YouTube channel. I did post the link. Go like and follow us, guys, on YouTube, man. We got some awesome guests that we've had on there. Some really, really good content. Kyle, we've had Vina Jetty, Abraham Gray, like some major rock stars in our communities in there.
And then next week we have Boris Sanchez, who's a monster in the multifamily world in Houston. He probably has $1 billion of his own assets under management. He's not a syndicator, but he finds way to buy property a lot of the times with little to no money down. And so he's going to be an amazing guest. So make sure you're here next week.
Yeah, and storage units, right? He buys storage facilities.
Commercial real estate in general. Yeah.
Commercial real estate. Got it. Awesome. Sweet, guys. Thanks, Justin, man. Congrats again.
You.
Thanks, everybody. We love you. We appreciate you. Have a good night.
Everyone.